All right. So for the solution consulting course, I want to do a quick intro here on the role itself. So um, always kind of curious if people have actually heard of a solution consultant role. Many times this exists in organizations, and many times it's not actually there as a title, but sometimes it appears as something else. So in our company, we've had solution consultants. I've actually been one for I've been with the company for almost 5 years, and I've been most of that time has been as a solution consultant, except for the last few months I've transitioned more into this enablement role. But many other organizations will call the same type of role a pre-sales engineer. Sometimes it'll be a sales engineer. Sometimes it's just referred to as sales or pre-sales. Sometimes it's a solution architect. Sometimes that's the exact same role that we fill, and sometimes each one of these is a very different role. So I don't want to get too much into what the actual title is, and more just to explain what this type of person is expected to do within the environment, because it is a really key role to be able to work within the sales and the consulting aspect of our customers meaning WorkFusion customers, but also the partners of our customers, being able to support and understand their needs, as well as work with the development side of things and actually delivering automation programs. Now, many of you are probably coming from a development background. I'm sure maybe half the people on the phone are actually certified in some type of RPA or machine learning or various types of WorkFusion content, as well as with some of our fellow automation providers. Many of you have more of a development background. Some of you might have more of a consulting background, which is where this role starts coming together. It is more of a ability to communicate what's needed within the automation space, more so than it is a specific role that has to be filled. So it's very useful to be able to more or less communicate as part of it. And you can see that as part of the certification, that's a key part to get certified, is to be able to communicate not only WorkFusion, but the needs and expectations of individual projects. That's where it all starts coming together. So what does a solution consultant focus on their time on? A lot of it is kind of breaking down what the customer is expecting in maybe 6 different types of statements that they might be saying. From I want to automate to I want to automate with WorkFusion, getting into a specific project that they're automating with WorkFusion SPA, to not just doing a project, but then wanting to tell others about it, and then wanting to do more with the product as a whole. So these are kind of the phases that customers move through. This course and the solution consulting role really focuses mostly in the middle. And in the middle meaning you're trying to convince them which tools to focus on. So maybe you're also talking with other solution providers as well, other automation providers as well. I'm trying to explain where WorkFusion is a good fit, how it relates to other tools, and then getting into how you get into specific projects with doing this. Part of the role as well could trickle into some of these other statements down below. We're trying to tell others how to do more with WorkFusion, how to explain the results that we're here. We're not focused so much on that from a solution consulting standpoint, because that tends to be more delivery management and packaging of use cases afterwards. But at least this gives you a kind of an overview of what the customer is probably thinking and how you're guiding them through their phases. Now, part of the course is more focused on that initial project, that initial automation project with the customer. That might not always be the case as well. Many of the customers, many of the prospective customers from WorkFusion at this point have started down an RPA journey before, or some type of automation journey. So maybe this isn't their first automation project. Maybe this is one of many. So customers are going to have different levels of maturity on their side as well. So this is reason for this slide is to kind of give you an idea of the scope of the course and how it's put together, but there might be some different nuances that need to be understood and applied differently depending on what the customer needs. So in order to fulfill that, how are we, as solution consultants, spending our time? What activities are we performing? So a lot of it ends up being education, as a lot of you are well aware. Many times it's working with sales reps and people from the marketing team to do things like demo, do process questionnaires, being able to lead workshops and do book of work planning to understand which projects are a good fit, or actually to explain what types of projects are possible, to explain what the software can do, to explain how the market has evolved and what's active and relevant within the market. That's all the education side of that. But in parallel to this, oftentimes, is the qualification of it. And I even tripped over my own words there as I was presenting the education piece. There's qualification that's usually happening with this as well. So not just do you want to explain things to customers of what they can do, but you also want to simultaneously understand what they should be doing, making sure that they're doing the right projects for something like WorkFusion, for something like RPA, to be able to move forward correctly. So again, working with sales reps, but maybe working more with architects and developers, getting set up to make sure that their requests of what projects they want to do, making sure that it's something that they can do. And here you're going to need to get into prioritization of processes, doing some level of ROI calculation, doing some filtering of this project is better than that project because of X, Y, and Z. So the education and qualification generally falls under the main title of discovery. A lot of times it's just called discovery, but it's really discovery on both sides. It's discovering, it's the customer discovering the product and what's going to work for them. It's the solution consultant and either the automation vendor or the automation partner that's helping to qualify the customer and make sure that there's someone as an organization and someone within that organization that is going to help drive this forward and make the right decision to want to spend time with them, to treat them as a customer, both as organizationally as well as the individuals that you're working with. Assuming that discovery process goes well, and in many of the large enterprises that we're focused on, it's possible. You might need to get the right people in the right spots, but and get the right processes to fit there. But you have this good, strong discovery process that happens. Now you need to move into solutioning. So solutioning is somewhat in the requirements documentation side of things, but a lot of it's more getting ready for specific projects with WorkFusion and being able to do those specific projects. Making sure that in the above phases, you've asked the right questions and you're able to get everyone set up to do the right work. So here, again, working with architects and sales maybe, but also pulling in IT ops for installations, working with account management to make sure they know how to drive this, delivery managers, etc., pulling in developers and analysts to being able to know exactly what they need to do. A lot of this is facilitated with the solution document, as we'll kind of walk through within the course itself, something that's able to communicate what's all been done within the education and qualification stages and why you're using this particular project as something to do and how you're going to set this up for success. So we're going to go through each of these pieces today. The education one will probably focus on more in the early stages, and then the solutioning we'll do more later on. The qualification one, I've packaged it more into videos, so I won't talk about that as much today, but we can definitely talk through that as in follow-up sessions, and we have additional courses and programs to help with that as well. So the activities, just to be a little bit more tactical, somewhat repetitive here, sorry for that, but a little bit more tactical what we do. A lot of times it's demoing and explaining to do that education. It's evaluating those processes and doing that discovery of specifically what they do. It's doing this with workshops. It's creating these solution documents. But then it's also, outside of the scope of the course, helping with RFIs and RFPs, SOWs, moving through due diligence discussions, attending conferences, educating others more and more, and then even speaking at events. The top four is where we're going to focus. The ones on the bottom, we have other materials that can help assist with this, and we're rolling out more, especially with the RFP process, to be able to make that easier for each of you. So the course itself, we're going to talk on education, qualification, solutioning, and getting into the preparation of customers. What we're not going to talk about too much today, and if your questions kind of guide towards these, just keep in mind we're probably not going to focus as much there around effort estimation, capacity planning, staffing and delivery, and then the actual installation. Now, those are out of scope, and I list that here specifically because they're out of scope at the current course, but they're not out of scope in the overall program. So that's additional content that we're going to be rolling out, probably within May to some select audiences, and then June more broadly. So we'll probably have a second level of the solution consulting course that's able to go further in some of these topics. In particular, effort estimation is one that comes up a lot. I'll touch on that a little bit today of how you think about it, but it's a little bit more hands-on at the moment about how we're helping partners understand that part, but we are packaging it up into more courseware.